welcome back to Enlighten Up for episode 70, the Body Snatcher, 3 Skeptics, Ego Incoming, and Ascension Descending. Well, everyone, you're in for a very interesting episode because for the first time ever, you have 3 skeptics. That's right. Lisa, Brian, and myself were 3 skeptics of the guest we had planned on. Unfortunately, the guest, 20 minutes into the interview, did not feel comfortable continuing. You're going to find out why on this episode. But for the reason that this guest would not stay on the show, we are not going to air the brief 20 minutes that we did have because it would not be fair to her. And we don't want to say who she is without her being here to defend herself. However, we are going to talk about what happened on that episode and what feelings it brought up for us, and also it touches on some very important topics that we come across in the spiritual journey. So we're going to talk about Ascension Descending and how that happened on the show. We're going to talk about that good old friend, our ego, incoming. And of course, you have 3 skeptics here. But finally, after so long, I'm going to share with you my Body Snatcher story. And it has to do with twin flames going awry. It's an interesting story. It took me a long time to feel comfortable with it. And I know Michael probably wishes he was on this episode because he brought this one up, I think, almost within the first couple of episodes that we've ever aired. And I finally get to share it with you because it was so timely. Without further ado, let's jump into the episode and find out what your 3 skeptics had to say today. Hey everyone, welcome back to Enlighten Up. I'm here with Lisa and Brian, and we have
a strange
show. Things definitely got interesting today, and we had to be quick on our feet. We had to we had a
weird, crappy guest.
We had guests gone rogue?
Guest gone wild. Yeah.
Guest gone wild.
Yeah, we had a guest slotted to come on the show, and things didn't go so well. And this is a first for us. And we unfortunately, to this guest's request, will not be able to air the recording that we did have. It was very short. It was only 20 minutes long. When we realized that
she was closed-minded.
Well, it was a first. Yeah, she really was. And it's a very rare day when Lisa, Brian, and myself do not agree with what the guest is telling us.
We had 3 skeptics on the show today.
We did. We had 3 skeptics. And unfortunately, this guest did not know how to handle 3 skeptics asking questions to what she was saying. All of our answers were never answered. All of our questions were never answered. And when we kept trying to clarify, it didn't go so well.
It just unraveled.
She didn't like it. Yes, it unraveled very quickly. Lisa, I'm really sad we can't air it because Lisa's warrior spirit came out and she got aggressive, which that never happens.
We might be able to salvage some clips.
Yeah, maybe I'll throw them in towards the end. We can play some of our clips since we record ourselves all separately on different tracks, and I just won't include the guest. But because the guest cannot be here to defend themselves, we won't be saying who this guest was. And why don't we just let you guys hear what happened as soon as we all hung up?
That was absurd.
Yeah, I just want to keep recording because...
Okay. But that was just absurd that I'm at a level that you're not, and no, there's only one truth, but she can't even define what truth is. But truth is not love. Truth is not.
But it's a tree. And by the way, that was Lisa laughing
Yeah, I know.
during the intro.
You should have seen Brian's
I
face
was
when you got to
doing
a certain
nothing.
part describing her. He
I
made this
know, but you guys
rolled eyes.
gotta know, I can hear you
I'm like,
laughing.
I was just sitting here, and all of a sudden, Lisa just started laughing because it was unbelievable.
Your
I
face.
was. Oh,
It
don't
was your
blame
face
me.
that made me laugh.
Bull, I didn't do. I was just sitting
It
here.
was totally your face.
Now,
It wasn't-
a lot of times I make faces
You
and
made
roll
a
my.
face.
I didn't do anything. You just started laughing because of the absurdity of it.
No, I didn't think it was absurd that she saw a ship and all that. I don't.
No, I
What-
don't think that it was absurd. I understand how it would come across to someone who's not used to hearing about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was just your face that was cute. I was. I mean, sorry if I
You
kind
were
of went
angry.
after her.
I
What?
could tell you were annoyed.
Well, because she wouldn't ever say what the truth was.
No, I know.
And
kept
she was
talking in
contradicting
circles.
herself, and she
Right.
was talking in circles. So I'm
She
like,
says she knows the truth.
I
I'm
know, it made
ascended,
no
and I
sense.
know the truth. Well, what is it?
It made no sense at all. I had a feeling this was how it was going to go.
Oh, really?
I should have listened to my gut when I had my interview with her. I just had this. I mean,
you told me that
Yeah.
you felt there was a lot of ego there with her. I mean, clearly she came on the show to say, this is the truth. Nobody interrupt me. I'm just going to tell you what's real. And then I'm going to get off the show and we'll be done. I'm
yeah,
like,
and
no.
and I don't feel like, and I have no problem with her sharing what it is that she believes is the truth, like whatever it is that she believes. But, here on our show, we definitely like to challenge ideas. And I mean, that's what Brian's job is. It just turned out that all three of us were challenging her, and we've never been in that situation before where all three of us did not feel aligned with what was being said. And I think that was, just everything she was saying just didn't feel right to me. And
Well, I think Lisa, when she said you're not open-minded, I think that really captures it. I think most is she wasn't willing to have a conversation. She wasn't willing to, if she is an instructor and is sent, the way you teach other people is to let this sort of, dialogue happen and, okay, help me understand your point of view. And well, this is how I see it. And she
couldn't even discuss her point of view or stance. It's just like, I am a God and I know everything. And this is what I say is truth, but I don't have to really explain it to you. I was like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. What are you, the Vatican?
It's kind of like how it felt like, we're just supposed to believe you because you say it so. And I don't believe anyone should believe that. And that goes for anything that we say on the show, any of our guests say. Like, if it doesn't resonate with you, then you shouldn't be listening to it. And I'm glad that ended faster than it, could have. Because I really didn't want to listen to much more of the energy was really stifling.
It was from the very beginning. I was like, okay, maybe we'll get on a roll here. And then you could just tell she felt really closed off to me.
Yeah.
You have to leave and I'm talking to you, Nicole, your heavy sigh in. Because it was great when she said something. You just heard this. Oh.
Well, he wouldn't let me finish speaking. She kept trying to overpower me.
She was.
I just kept talking.
That.
She did that to me, and I just kept talking.
I know, and we've interrupted guests here and there on a show only because sometimes we have to get our point in because the conversation can go somewhere else, and we miss our opportunity to get our point in.
And sometimes they don't get it. Sometimes they don't understand that they need to take. And I remember there was a couple of times where you described it to them, and take a break, and let us interject. And
but this was completely different.
Yeah,
this was unlike we've experienced yet on the show. Like, this is not.
Woohoo! We had a first.
I know, we had a first. We had a first. Wow. Well, you know what?
Three skeptics.
That's the name of this show. The Three Skeptics.
Okay. So if anyone resonates with her, then keep listening to her, like, by all means. there's people who do not resonate with us and won't listen to us. And that's cool. You know, like I don't take it personally or anything like that. But
let's talk about Ascension. Let's talk about the journey and what is truth.
The idea is incredibly valid. I mean, you know, she had an opportunity to come on as a teacher. You know, I mean, you compared, and that was my, you know, the question that I was bringing to the table today when I knew she was about Ascension, because I think like Lisa said, you know, we're all aware of the word when Jesus ascended. And I was curious if it was the same thing, but at his core, he was a teacher. And if you are the first to ascend, and if you are a powerful master and you know the truth, it should be your obligation to share that message and to teach it. I mean, just compare what we all have on our mind about the Jesus we were taught about with what she just tried to do. And that's not, she would not get to wear the bracelet WWJD. What would Jesus do?
Yeah.
We've talked about it, I'm sure, numerous times on the show, just about ascension and awakening, the spiritual path, and how it is about your own truth. And I would have to agree with, we are all getting to one truth, and there is a lot of programming that is keeping us from seeing things. And, you know, I agree with all that, but I mean, I honestly believe that one truth is love, and that one truth is wholeness and oneness. And that's the most purest form, without ego, without fear, you know, without anything opposite of love. It's just, that's what we're getting to. But our truth has to be our own on that journey, you know, and we talk about that all the time on this show. Like Brian's truth obviously is different than mine. Mm-hmm. But through his own truth, he's going to the same place, you know?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. And it's like, you know, and that's why I feel like it's all about reestablishing connection with source energy, creator, God, you know, whatever it is that you want to call it, identify it as. That, you know, we understand that when we incarnate here, one of the biggest challenges and hurdles of coming to Earth is that we absolve that connection completely. We've completely disconnected it. And it's all about finding our way back to it and reestablishing it, knowing that it's always been there. It's always there. It's just a matter of tuning in and reconnecting. And through that, you get that streamline of consciousness coming in, that connection to all. And
I mean, it kind of blew my mind, and I know I was a little rowdy, but when she said, you know, I'm not the rapist, I'm not, you know, but yeah, you are. Like, they're just a mirror image. We've talked about that. No, in this form, in this body, maybe you wouldn't choose to do those things, but there's something there that you have to forgive in yourself and in that other person, to let go of those things that bind you here in 3D and be able to ascend. You have to know that you're one, and you have to know that there's a piece and a part of you in that rapist and in that murderer, whether it just be in thoughts that you've had or anything, that you somehow see yourself in that person, or they wouldn't be visible in this reality to you.
Yeah, I mean, if we're all connected and if we're all part of this raising of the collective, you know, the collective consciousness, and we're all, some of us perhaps aren't rising in consciousness. We're staying the same. We're still sleeping, or we're just not aware, or we're just, you know, people are blissfully happy with life as it is. No judgment whatsoever. That's just where you're at. And, but, you know, everything has an influence on the other. It's called cause and effect. And as one of us begins to raise our consciousness, it has an impact or an influence on the collective. So to think that you're not part of that, or that we're not all connected, that we're not all part of this, part of one. If we all come from Creator, then we all have the Creator within us, which means we are all part of each other. I just don't understand how that's not obvious.
Ego.
Yes, that's one of the blocks that happens.
Well, but it's so interesting because I mean, that's that idea. I mean, obviously we all know what having an ego is, but when you guys talk about, ego, I think it's a little bit, different connotation when we're talking about the ego getting in our way. It's not just about having an ego. And to hear the words that she was using, I mean, it was me. I'm special. I'm the only one. I'm one of few. There's nobody else like me.
You can't understand because I'm basically ahead of you.
Yeah.
That's ego.
Lot of ego. Yeah, there was a lot of ego. But this happens a lot. This is great, because we talked about this, I think, on earlier episodes,
yes,
that within the spiritual community, there can be teachers who sometimes get blocked by their own ego. And it comes from, it can come from I don't want to pretend to know what it can only come from. I think there are various things that it can stem from, but I think, sometimes it's just, you get in your own head, and clearly from what I'm perceiving is that maybe she's disconnected from the collective of what's really going on, and perceiving things in her own way, which is totally understandable. It's not different from anyone else. I think we all perceive things in the way we want to perceive them, but all I know is that I was not aligning with anything she was saying.
No, neither was I. And I was, I feel like first she felt like she was really special. And, when I asked her, why do you think that's so, is it your vibration? And it's like, oh yes, because I'm vibrating at a much higher level basically than everybody else. And I found that to be really interesting because, I know of people who like certain abilities or seeing UFOs, or psychic ability or something, just hit them out of the blue. And they don't seem to be necessarily people that are vibrating at a high level. I think it's like when it's your time, it's your time.
Yeah, I don't believe that you need to be at a certain level of consciousness to be able to see something and that you're special, because I believe that these are actually predetermined things that you've chosen for as part of your awakening, or that some of us have certain abilities that we come in with. Some are more visual, some are more audient, like audio, some are more sentient, like you feel things. There's just we all pick up on things in different ways. And she clearly had the visual one, and she was clearly had that put into her timeline, part of her awakening. But I don't know. It's just, it's kind of sad, to be honest. But I don't want to take anything away from what she's expressed as what she's seen. That's her experience, and she's the one who's experienced it. So I can't say anything about that. All I can say is that I didn't like the energy that came on the show. I didn't like the fact that she didn't want to have an open conversation with us, that she only wanted to speak and us listen, and that she was a teacher and we were just to listen. I found that very hierarchical, that hierarchy, there was some sort of hierarchy, which is very egotistical, that we're not all on the same level. We're not all learning from one another. I believe we're all teachers and students, and it just didn't vibe with me. It's really unfortunate too. It kind of makes me a little sad.
Well, but I think about it from the viewpoint like we have of everyone. She is exactly where she's supposed to be on her path for whatever reason, and why she has turned to the ego and let the ego get a hold of her right now. Maybe she hasn't always been this way. It's hard to say, what maybe her bright shining light, caused some negative things to happen and steer in another direction. I don't know, but I'm sure she's right where she is supposed to be on this path, teaching us about whatever it is that we need to learn.
Not teaching, telling
us.
Yeah, that was the other thing, like it just goes against everything that I understand. Like that's the one thing I don't like about our education system, and that it's telling you how to think versus teaching you how to think for yourself. And her approach was, don't think for yourself. Don't challenge me. I'm here to teach. You're dishonoring who I am, and I don't want to be here now.
Yeah, and if there's, I think we talked about this, and I don't remember the episode number. I know it was like probably under 10 or something back in the beginning when we talked about spiritual frauds.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we spoke of was that if they're telling you, what you should do or how you should think, that should make your discernment light go off.
I want to remember. No, this is before I was, on. But I know I remember the story. That also took place in Florida. I'm just saying. I'm just. You connect. There's two dots here, and they both.
Okay. Do you guys want to know something really crazy?
Michael was in Florida too. Dun dun dun.
No, the person who originally told me, because I reached out to her over a year ago, and she only got back to me like a month ago. Okay. And the only reason why I reached out to her because this other person wanted me to get her on my other show that I was doing. That person was the one who
the other Floridian.
No, not a Floridian. Not a Floridian. The person who tried to invade with
the Body Snatcher.
The Body Snatcher, yeah.
we still haven't gotten you to really tell that story, Nicole.
Sounds like a great opportunity.
I want juicy details.
God, I don't even have wine for this.
Hit pause.
We can hit pause, get some wine. We'll be right back.
No.
It's 6:00 where you are.
It is. So, I don't know.
Let's
I
do
don't
it.
even know how to begin.
I'll start you off.
No names.
All started with twin flames.
It was a dark and stormy night.
So this just really ties into the fact that our discernment is so important, and there are people who will come into our lives to teach us many things, and sometimes they're teaching us things that we don't even realize they're teaching us. Like, it's not what they think they're teaching us, it's something completely different. And this was the case for me in this experience that I had, which was quite traumatizing, to be quite honest.
I was traumatized by it, so.
I was new to the twin flame journey, about 6 months in, just kind of trying to understand it. A friend of mine had really kind of started pushing articles of twin flames on me. And at first I wasn't really into the whole thing. And I was like, yeah, it doesn't, whatever. And then I kind of really got into it,
Hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. I'm a romantic at heart. And so the whole idea of there being like a twin flame, just like, oh, it makes sense. It's such a romantic ideology that anyone who's a romantic at heart totally falls for. And so I ended up connecting with someone who assisted in twin flames. And so God.
You can do it.
Oh boy. So this person believed that their twin flame had passed on. They had a connection at an earlier point in this person's life. And he him and I became friends. You know, I was interested in learning more about the whole twin flame journey, and we would speak on the phone, and just like it was just a friendship, very casual friendship, nothing beyond that. And I was interested in someone else at the time who I believed was my twin flame. Very wrong. It was what do they call them? A false twin. And so after kind of realizing that this false twin was a false twin, I was with this man and another woman who was also a friend and spiritual teacher at the time. And we were hanging out, and she decided to do some healing work on me and do some upgrades, I guess, energetic upgrades. And so her and I went away from, like, we went to like a more private area to do this. And as she was working on me, I felt the pressure of a hand over my heart. And my eyes were closed the whole time. I was lying on the ground, and I thought, oh, she must have just placed her hand over my heart. But then I heard her talking, because she was using light language, and she was at my feet. So I was like, that's weird. I also, when I felt the hand come on to my chest, my first instinct was to grab it by the wrist. Almost like, what are you doing there? But I didn't, because I didn't want to disrupt what she was doing. So I didn't do anything. And then, so it's done, and I opened my eyes, and I said to her, was your hand ever on my chest? And she's like, no. I go, oh, I really felt a hand on my chest. And she goes, oh, that's so interesting. I felt this other guy's energy, our friend, here with us the whole time. And I said, oh, really? And she goes, yeah. And she goes, and one of your guides showed up. And oh, no, sorry. She didn't tell me the guide showed up. Someone else did. So she just, that happened. And I felt kind of weird after it. It was really weird. And so, oh, God.
Deep breath.
This is so weird. This is such a weird experience. It's such a weird experience.
But you're sharing something with us, and you're teaching. You're not telling.
I shared my Ascension schizophrenia. You can share this.
So, I just felt weird about it, and then from then on, like, I just had a weird feeling around this man.
Give him a name. Just give him a.
Let's call him Mark. Okay, we'll call him Mark. So I had a really weird feeling around Mark, and I just didn't want to be around Mark anymore for some reason. Like, I don't know what it was, but I was getting just a weird vibe. And like, he then, we're hanging out, and he goes into the water, into the pool, and my girlfriend and I are sitting on the chairs, the lounge chairs, and she looks over at me and she says, this is when I found out that the twin was a false twin. She goes, I don't think he's your twin. And she's like, I think that you and Mark have much more in common than you think. And I looked at her, and if there's any way to describe the feeling that came over my body, it was, oh my God, no. It was just like, you've dropped the apocalyptic bomb of all sorts on my life. Like, no, not only are you telling me that the person I thought was my twin is no longer my twin, but the person who's kind of giving me bad vibes is my twin. Like, I go, it wasn't lining up for me. And I was like, no. She's like, oh, don't worry. She goes, listen, she goes, you have total, what's it called? Free will. You don't have to choose it if you don't want to. And it doesn't have to be like a romantic thing. And I'm like, but wait a second. I go, this person, Mark, believes that his twin is passed on and in the 5D and communicates with his twin frequently. And so I didn't understand. Like, nothing was making sense to me. Like, my whole, like, I think I called you, Lisa, when I found out. And I was freaking out because I felt like my whole world was coming down on me. Like, I didn't know left from right, up from down, inside from out. I didn't even feel like I knew where I was anymore.
Well, you were being led to believe something, and I know you're telling this story kind of quickly, but this went on for maybe like, it seemed like a couple of months, where first you really thought that you had this twin, and then you found out he wasn't really your twin, he was false. And then during this time you had been really close to Mark and having nearly daily conversations, as well as this other person who I'll call Susie. So Susie, you and Mark are all chummy and talking about this stuff all the time and talking about Mark's twin flame on a regular basis. He has breakfast with her every morning. I mean, he talks to her as if she's a real person living with him.
Yeah.
Like, he's really into it.
Yeah.
So then when he started, you met him in person for the first time after having this.
So we meet in person for the first time, and he said to me, no, he didn't say this to me. I find this out from Susie, that that I look exactly like his twin.
When she was alive.
Yes. Or even how she looks now in 5D, because he could see her, right?
Oh, that's right.
And so I thought, okay, and then I said, we were all sitting there on the lounge chairs after she just dropped this apocalyptic bomb on me. He comes out of the water, sits down beside us in the lounge chair, and I look to Susie and I say, I, for some reason, just keep having this name Sarah come up into my mind. And I don't know why I keep getting the name Sarah. And he looks over, he goes, oh my God. And he just starts chuckling. And so the both of us look over at him and go, what's so funny? He's like, no, he goes, it's just interesting. And I said, what's so interesting? He's like, oh no, like, it's okay. And I said, no, like, tell us I got to know, like, what is so interesting about me seeing Sarah? He goes, oh, it's just that it's my favorite name. And I just got a really
creepy
feeling. I don't mean any disrespect to him, but I just got a creepy feeling. I'm going to be very honest. And I just wanted to leave. I really just wanted to leave. So then, gosh, I don't know if I've just repressed some of this out of my mind. I'm having a hard time recalling the events in the order that they happened.
I do know just from what you told me that you then had a conversation later with Susie and said to her, this just does not feel right to me at all.
Yeah. So I told her that I was feeling uncomfortable and I didn't want to really be talking to him anymore. And I just wasn't feeling comfortable with the whole relationship. And I just wanted to put distance there. I felt like I needed to put up boundaries. And him and I finally have a chat. We finally to clear the air, but also for me to be like, I just think maybe we need to go our separate ways. But I wanted to give him a chance to to hear him out. He'd been emailing me, because we had a decent friendship beforehand. Like, it was, quite like, just, what do you call?
It was kind of like
it was simpatico.
It was kind of like online dating. And then when you met him in person, everything fell apart.
Although it had nothing to do with dating.
I know you weren't dating, but I'm just like, you had this online relationship over the phone. And then when you met in person, it's like the energies just.
Yeah, they did not. Yeah. So this person, we end up having a phone conversation, and this person proceeds to tell me things that creep me out even further. Telling me that the hand that I felt was his twin. And so I got to back up here a little bit. He told me that his twin, so this is where we talk about walk-ins. his twin was getting ready to walk into someone else's body so that they could be here together again. And so we have talked about walk-ins very briefly on the show, but basically, if someone is ready to, they've completed their mission here on Earth and they're ready to leave, sometimes souls don't want to go through the entire birthing and growing. They just want to come in at a certain point, like for their journey. They don't need to go through the whole childhood and birthing and all of that. And also for the person leaving, they feel like it would be so detrimental to their family, whether maybe they have kids or whatever it is, of them passing away, that a walk-in comes in instead so that the physical body's still there. And the person who walks in has the characteristics and memories, most of the memories of the person that's leaving, and also bring in their own characteristics into the body along with their vibration. So this is what they were planning on doing. That she was planning on, they had found a body. She had been communicating with this person's soul. Like, this is where this just gets really ridiculous. Like, I mean, even just me talking about it, I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. So this person was planning on coming into a body, but it got the plans went sideways and there was a kibosh put on and she could no longer take over that body. The soul contract, whatever, was null and it was not going through. What he led me to believe in this conversation was that her higher self was actually mine higher self, and that she was trying to merge into my body. And I just was like, if I'm going to be quite frank, and if you've got kids listening to the show right now, earmuffs, like pause, don't let anyone hear this. But my reaction was like, get the fuck off of me, get everyone away from me. I told all my spirit guides, my angels, like, I want everyone just to back the fuck up because this is not happening. I am not leaving my body. No one's coming in here and taking over my body. I chose this body. I have a mission here. I have a life here. No one else is coming in here and disrupting it. And I got really aggressive with my guides and my angels. And I just said, everyone back the fuck up because this is not happening. And so I felt very violated. I felt like someone was trying to intercept or take over something that wasn't theirs to take over. And I felt like it was spiritual rape. It felt like spiritual rape to me. And I just was like, I'm sorry. I said, your twin flame is not my higher self. That much I know. He's like, tried to convince me in another way. And he's like, no, you're not seeing, you're seeing, this is the thing she felt, you trying to push her away. You're having a hard time receiving her. And I'm just like, yeah, because I don't want her taking over my body. I'm like, this ain't happening. It was such a bizarre experience. And it just that is what threw me into such a deep tailspin of distrusting everything I had been hearing, everything I had felt to know true. I questioned every meditation I had. I questioned every message I had received. I just questioned everything, and I didn't know what to believe anymore. And it completely shook my foundation that I had been growing. And, Michael aptly called it body snatching. That was his term. I wish he was on the show because I was with him when this all happened. Well, like I was staying with him when this all happened. And that was just like a weird thing. And so this can happen where people try to convince you of something that completely feels wrong for you. To your core, it's not true. And here's what, goes to speak of what we were just talking about. It probably felt very true for him in whatever reality he's living in. It's not mine, that's for sure. But whatever reality he's living in, it was his truth. He believed it so much. But it certainly wasn't my truth, and I wasn't ready to accept it. And what I was later told was that I had, by a friend that I do trust, that I had a guide come in and remove her hand from my chest and tell her to leave. So I call upon that guide now very often in my meditations. But yeah, that happened. And that was a really weird, bizarre experience that totally took me into the twilight zone and made me question everything, and actually made me want to step away from the whole twin flame journey altogether. And to be fair, and I don't say this to take anything away from anyone who's on it, like, please follow it, do whatever. But for me, I was like, it's not a good place for me to go to in, I don't think it really matters.
Well, I think that you had to go through that for a reason. You now are very careful when you get messages or other people tell you things. Like, it really heightened your discernment muscle, which maybe that was something that you had to experience in order to keep you safe. You know?
It really opened my eyes to not believing everything you hear, questioning everything, which is why it was so important for the show is, if someone is just trying to tell you to believe what they're saying because it's true for them, but it doesn't feel true for you, you shouldn't be believing it. Right. And I don't like it when teachers, and I'm putting air quotes around that, come forward and have that sort of approach or attitude. I think it's very misleading, and I think it's disruptive, but at the same time, perhaps that's the role that needs to happen. Perhaps that is the role, is that we have people like that to teach us discernment so that we do know, and that they are playing their roles out in that way. And that's part of the whole journey, which again is why we're all connected.
Right. And it's why on the show, we don't judge anybody. Like, everybody's path is exactly where they need to be. And whatever, say, brought to this show or made us think about is exactly where we needed to go and what we needed to hear. And we need people just like her to be able to bring those things to our awareness, just like we need, you needed Mark in your life, to maybe help you be more careful about listening to things that come your way. So, it's all perfect. And I truly believe that we all have our own truth.
Yeah. I believe that too. I believe we all have our own truth, and that is constantly changing, and that I believe there are universal truths that govern the laws of the universe. But, you can only perceive what your consciousness is allowing you to perceive. It's like someone who is constantly in a state of fear will never truly be able to perceive love, because they're constantly in a state of fear. And so they'll never perceive love in the way that someone who's in a state of love is. And so it doesn't mean that what that person's feeling isn't true. It's certainly true to them for wherever they are. But I just believe that that's why I believe it's ever changing as we grow and expand our consciousness and grow and learn our lessons and have open dialogue conversations with people to learn from one another. And maybe those conversations solidify your truth even further, or it opens it up to new ideas.
And it's like, to me, it's like leaving a space for people, like, that where they are right now is a perfect space for them to be in. Like, we're not judging it or trying to change it. Like, it's okay that you're there. I'm going to come meet you in that space. It doesn't mean I'm going to make it my truth, but I'm not going to hold it against you. You're right where you need to be. And I think that's getting to the one truth. That is being someone who is living out of love instead of out of fear, and not needing everyone to think that the way you think or agree with you, that you're simply loving people where they are on their journey right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So what an interesting turn of events.
It was awesome. We've never had a show like that before.
So, Brian, thoughts, advice, wisdom?
I'm picturing this guy in a Speedo on the beach, pot belly, white linen shirt, balding, greasy hair, gold chain, really hairy, chest and probably back. That's how I pictured Mark. Waiting, trying to coax his 5D girlfriend into your smoking hot beach body. That's what I saw.
Oh, you know what? You're not that far off. Michael and I, bless his heart, he really should have been on this show for this one.
Bless his heart.
He got me through that with so much laughter. Like, he broke that down into such a 3D explanation that really made me laugh, which I needed to break the creepiness of it all. But like, and here's the thing, and this is the great thing. This is the great thing about having friends who can ground you. Okay, when sometimes you're going way too far to the other side and you're losing perspective on some things. He just really grounded me, and I needed to have some sense of a normal perspective on it. This isn't normal, Nicole. This isn't what normal people do. Like, this is not okay. And just to like hear that made me just clarified that I wasn't completely going crazy.
No, you weren't the crazy one in that situation.
You're open to craziness.
I'm open to craziness.
You're open to bringing crazy into your life, but
yes.
But
and I experience my own levels of crazy at times. I totally know that. But in that moment where like I was so ungrounded, so lost, and so distrusting of anything that I knew to be true. So these things do happen.
Yep, they do. But we've left all that behind now.
Mm-hmm. Yes. We're on to new adventures.
We're on to new kinds of crazy now.
With no flames.
No flames.
No flames.
No flaming.
Are you my twin flame baby?
Yes.
So, Brian, what are your thoughts from this whole experience? Any wisdom that comes through our skeptic on this whole thing, and any last final thoughts about it all?
Well, I definitely want you to add what I said earlier about the guy with the Speedo. But gosh, I don't know how to tie it back into Ascension, because it's still something that I don't fully, I have this Sunday school mindset when I hear the word Ascension. I can't take that out of who I am, and I'm looking at it through this lens of Jesus ascended, and when you guys talk about this, it's still a struggle for me to compare myself to this. Not compare myself, that's not the right word, but to think that I too can have this experience where I ascend and something happens, and we don't know what happens. It's hard. And listening to your story, about a walk-in or body snatchers, it's stuff that I am not equipped to understand. And that's me being firmly rooted in, how you guys describe me in 3D.
Well, I don't think it's something that most people can wrap their head around. I think why I held off so long even talking about it. And really the only reason I'm talking about it is because we're kind of at a loss for what to do for this show since what happened with our guest.
Our guest bailed.
Yeah.
So what would you say the difference between ascending and awakening is? Because I feel like those terms are interchanged often.
Yeah, I think I prefer awakening over ascension, to be quite honest. Because ascending has this idea like you're going somewhere else, and that's not what ascension is from what I understand it to be now. Like people, when they talk about, oh, we're ascending to new earth, 5D, whatever it is, like it's just a vibration. It's just shifting vibrations. So ascending, I think, is part of like moving into higher timelines, shifting your frequency towards more love and away from fear. It's about revealing truths as opposed to hiding them. That's what I feel like it's kind of about. And the awakening process is all about just creating more awareness of self and what that truth is for yourself.
They sound almost the same.
Yeah, I think that they are the same. It's just a matter of like words, but I feel like sometimes the word ascending can be misleading to some people, especially when they're kind of trying to figure it out for the first time.
Yeah,
because when I first heard about it, that's what I thought too. I thought, oh, I'm going somewhere. I'm leaving this body. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, like if you think about Jesus and ascension, I mean, basically, it is just what you had said before about, shifting timelines or, moving into a different dimension. You really didn't go anywhere, but maybe you're not visible to people at that lower vibration anymore. You've ascended into such a high frequency where, to me, awakening is like the beginning of that process. It's the whole journey, the whole awakening. I mean, I would have to say that Jesus was already awake when he came. He was more descending, like he had already ascended, really. He was just choosing to be at this vibration where we could see him to bring his message and to let us all know that we can be there with him too. But there's no exact science behind any of this. So there's that. Yeah.
And it was just the way that it was said, or the way our guest said, like, this is truth, like it just is. And I don't know what there is to back that up, like I think we can all speak from our own experiences, and what resonates can feel like truth. And I think that's like for what we're talking about, that's what a lot of us can only go on. There is some quantum science coming out, quantum physics, to support a lot of things, which is great. But, I think, Brian, you have this, you kind of take the standpoint a lot where like, but how do you know for sure? Right? Like with certainty. And I felt like our guest took that stance without being able to tell us or answer any of our questions directly.
Right. And it's hard. I mean, it's hard to have your own opinion if you can't base it on anything. And we weren't given the chance to have an opinion about what she was saying because she wasn't really telling us anything. She said, well, there's one truth. And we said, well, what is that truth? And she never said it. She just said, there's just one truth.
And then when Lisa tried to describe what that truth is, she says, no, you're wrong. It's not that. And then would not be able to directly say what it was.
Right.
She said, I was being simplistic, and I felt like, no, you are. Like you're being just vague.
Yeah. There was no definitive answer coming forth. Everything. And like you said, like she was contradicting what she was saying. So, this is a first for us at Enlighten Up. We've never had a guest on before that
hung up.
Well, to be fair, she didn't hang up.
I was hoping she would.
We all decided that that was the best route to go. She wasn't rude and hung up on us or anything like that. But, it's very interesting because the feedback that we've gotten from all our guests is that they love the conversation flow of our show. They love the skeptic part of it. They love that it's casual conversation. And every guest has told us they want to come back on. So
every guest but one.
Every guest but one. We now have ruined our perfect batting average.
And we've had so many guests, more than not, that like either Michael or Brian haven't agreed with what they say. Mm-hmm. And we've never had a guest before have a problem with saying, I remember Marina Jacoby, everyone was, jumping all over her. And she was like, you don't have to believe it. Like, I'm not necessarily telling you you're wrong. I'm just saying this is my truth. This is what I believe in, and respecting people enough to say, this is just an idea. This is what I believe right now. I mean, scientists that discover amazing things come out, or inventors that say, this is this or something new. And people say, yeah, I don't believe that. Well, that's okay. You actually don't have to,
Yeah.
Time
or when we had, and when we had Jessica Alstrom on and Michael was having a really difficult time believing what she was saying. And, he was getting really kind of just,
confrontational.
Confrontational.
And I thought she was great.
She was great. She handled it. She took it like a champ and she handled it really great. And, I think that speaks to, if you're really confident in what your truth is, it doesn't matter if someone's going to challenge you. That's going to happen day in and day out. If you're not willing to accept those challenges, then that speaks to me of closed-mindedness, and that also speaks to weakness in your ability to teach.
It also speaks to me of not being ascended.
Oh, absolutely. That's my first thought is, well, you're not an open, loving person who's able to have other people's ideas be okay in the same space of your ideas. Like, that's not awakening and that's not ascending to me. Yeah. You have some work to do.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So to all our listeners, this happens to all of us on the journey where we may be receiving information from someone who is considered a teacher within the community and it won't sit right with you. And you may have friends who really like it and that means it's true for them. But if it's not true for you, don't try to fit it into a box to make it true for you. Don't try to change the way you see things if it really doesn't resonate with you. Just walk away and move on from it and let it go, let it be, which is what we kind of had to do on this show. So very interesting, very interesting. So a little lesson in ascension, discernment, and body snatching.
Yes.
So for all our listeners, this was definitely ascension that went sideways. So
sideways ascension,
lateral
body
ascension.
snatchers, and what was the other one? Guess gone bad.
Guess gone wild. But we appreciate it because it definitely gave us a topic to talk about. That's for sure. And we haven't had one, just the three of us, in a while.
Yeah, we haven't. We needed to do a show, just the three of us. I was thinking of that recently.
Yeah. So to all our listeners, thanks for joining us this week. And check out our t-shirt store if you'd like to wear some fun spiritual wear. There's some great t-shirts there with funny sayings and quotes. Plus, the t-shirts are really good quality. And what
I'm
else?
wearing mine right now, and I actually love the way it fits, and it's really soft.
You've worn it every day for the past 4 days.
No, well, maybe.
My higher self is smarter than your honor student. And every time I see Nicole, she has her karma one on.
And you were wearing Enlighten the fuck up the other day. So they're actually really comfortable and they fit perfectly.
They do. I need to get more because I've not found a t-shirt that comfortable. And I'm not saying this because we want you guys to buy it.
I totally agree. I'd order more.
I know. And really the only reason we put them out there is because we did have a few great sayings and, it's fun to spread some spiritual humor everywhere we go. So, and also guys, for you guys listening, if you have any questions that you'd like us to ask on the show, if you have any show topic ideas, guests that you'd like us to bring on, then please send all that information into our email, info@enlightenup.us. And don't forget to check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And Lisa is coming up to visit me in Canada, and we're going to be doing a special podcast up here in Canada with some of my 5D peeps up here. And so we're looking to have a great show upcoming soon. So stay tuned for that. All right, everyone, have a great week, and we'll be back with you next time.